Schwur Kärnan at Hansa Park is one of the craziest and most unique roller coasters in the world. This Gerstlauer Infinity coaster is a mysterious hypercoaster that starts indoors before maneuvering its way through an aggressive outdoor layout. This ride's theming, intensity, and bizarre elements are what makes this coaster special, and in this video, I will review Karnan and explain why it's one of my favorite roller coasters in the world. Before starting this review, I need to say this up front. Karnan's indoor section has a lot of surprises. I think the ride is better if you don't know those surprises exist. I accidentally spoiled them for myself. These are revealed in the attraction's RCDB page, the Wikipedia page, and the ride's safety sign. If you have any intentions of visiting Hansa Park, especially if it's anytime soon, I urge you to go in as blind as possible so you don't know what happens inside the building. It'll make the ride even better. For that reason, I am going to divide this review into segments: ride history, ride plot, queue line and pre-boarding, the pre-drop indoor section, drop, outdoor section, final indoor section, and final thoughts. Let's start with the ride history. Hansa Park has a great relationship with Gerstlauer. The German manufacturer provided two well-themed coasters in 2009 and 2011 for Hansa Park. Flug von Novgorod opened in 2009. This Eurofighter has an intense launch, an inversion, a vertical drop, and some dark ride elements. Schlangen von Midgard opened in 2011. This family coaster has a nice setting over the water and also includes a show scene. Both these rides were well received, so Hansa Park began discussions with Gerstlauer on their biggest coaster yet. In 2013, the park announced Schwur Kärnan, or the Oath of Karnan. The station and lift would be enclosed in a colossal 260-foot or 79-meter tall tower. This infinity coaster would stand 240 feet or 73 meters tall, reach a top speed of 79 miles per hour or 127 kilometers per hour, and traverse 4,052 feet or 1,235 meters of track. This is the only hypercoaster that Gerstlauer has built to date, and I really hope they build more. Construction began in April of 2014, and the ride opened in July of 2015. However, not all of the theming was complete for the ride's opening year. For the ride's first year, the giant tower was just a concrete shell. Thankfully, the ride was painted for the following season, and now Karnan's tower looks incredible for both its detail and sheer scale. The only thing comparable in the US is Cannibal's Tower. Moving on to the ride plot, Karnan is an actual tower. It's the only remaining structure of a 1300s medieval fortress in Helsingborg, Sweden. This tower is the symbol of Helsingborg, and interestingly, the version at Hansa Park is taller, by a significant margin. The actual Karnan is just 115 feet, or 35 meters tall. The coaster and ride's tower are more than twice the original's height. The ride is themed around King Eric VI. He was a cruel ruler, so both his people and other kingdoms challenged his rule. To protect himself, King Eric sought to create an impenetrable fortress. He hired a master builder who did sympathize with the people, but the king made him take an oath that he would build him his fortress. The master builder used magic to trick the king. The master builder told the king a spell was needed to make the fortress invincible, but it had a high price. King Eric, obsessed with perfection, ignored these warnings and didn't ask what the cost was, so he recited the spell. The fortress became impenetrable, but the king died shortly thereafter, and his soul was bound to the tower. Guests enter the tower during present day, where they'll find scientists who recently discovered a new chamber and shaft in the cursed tower. This is an unbelievably detailed story for a coaster as intense as this one, but it's told incredibly well throughout the queue line. Now let's talk about the queue line and pre-boarding experience. Karnan has a lengthy outdoor queue line, but it was not needed the day that I visited. I visited on a summer weekday in 2019, and at its longest, the line backed up to the start of the indoor queue. This took roughly a half hour to get through, but I didn't mind too much because of how detailed the queue line was. It has a really ominous feel with the dark lighting and music. Eventually, you reach the throne room where you have a Cobra's Curse-esque pre-show with some projection mapping effects and audio. You then reach the library where you must put all your loose articles inside a cubby. These cubbies are locked while you're on the ride, so they're very secure. Everything must go in here. Phones, keys, wallets, and even glasses, even if you have a strap. But thankfully, there's this awesome no limits recreation that was made by Zero that I'm going to use quite a bit in this review. You are then assigned a row, but it is done in the coolest way possible. Each train seats 16 guests in 4 rows of 4. So there are 4 queues in this room. After everyone is in their designated queue, the room is filled with loud music and swirling lights. All of a sudden, the floor illuminates underneath you, and the doors illuminate ahead of you, opening randomly one by one. The order that the doors open dictates which row you ride in. And I'm mixed on this. While the seat selection is very theatric and cool to watch, it can be very frustrating that you may struggle to get the row you want. The ride itself is so good that you'll want to reride it anyway, but the fact you can't pick your seat under any circumstances sort of forces you to keep reriding it if you want a specific row. I only got the front row once, usually got the back 2 rows. Thankfully, the ride is great in every single row. There is one way to sort of game the system though. If you're with a group, split yourself up amongst different queue lines. You can then switch with each other if you want to get a different row. The staff permitted me to jump around as a single rider to fill any open seat, so I had some options to pick. Now let's move on to the trains. Karnan has the lap bar trains that Gerstlauer features on many of their Infinity coasters. These coasters have no seatbelts, just a tight but comfortable lap bar. If you've ridden Hang Time, Monster, or any of the Gerstlauer Eurofighters at lap bars, you'll be familiar with these lap bars. Moving on to the pre-drop surprises. This is where the real spoilers start. If you want to avoid these, please skip ahead to the next section of this video. I will have the timestamp on the screen now to where you should go forward to. The ride starts with a small but sudden dip out of the station in complete darkness. You then round a hairpin turn with some surprising laterals. No one ever talks about this part of the ride, but it's a quirky pre-lift section with some bite to it. You then reach the gigantic vertical lift. You ascend this lift, which is extremely disorienting since it's in complete darkness. But you stop right before the top. King Eric then appears on the ceiling and begins yelling at riders in German. I couldn't understand what was being said, but I believe it's something to the extent that you're trapped in the tower. Creepy music then rises to a crescendo. The train starts to shake, and then all of a sudden, you plummet backwards down the hill. This is the element I wish I didn't spoil for myself. I don't know how I would have reacted if I didn't know it was coming. But even with me knowing that was going to happen, I still didn't know the exact moment when it would drop me. So it felt like a bizarre drop tower since you're lying on your back for the drop. It caused my stomach to drop like a drop tower, and I'd say the intensity of this drop was somewhere in between an S&S and an intimate freefall tower. Now I read this drop was intensified between the 2016 and 2017 seasons, and I'd love to see this element incorporated on more coasters, even on an outdoor one, so I can see the reaction of others since it must be an odd sight to witness. After you reach the bottom, triumphant music begins playing, and then you begin ascending the tower. This time you don't stop and crest over the top. Moving on to the drop. Kärnan has one of the best drops on any coaster. It is a vertical drop with a 90-degree twist. This drop feels like Expedition G-Force's first drop on steroids. It is steeper and 50 feet taller. The sustained ejector airtime and laterals on this drop are absolutely insane if you're towards the back of the train. And it's enclosed too. So you have not even a head chopper, but a body chopper with a concrete building that boxes you in on all sides. It is a really odd visual that made the drop even crazier. And you can't really see the bottom of the drop either. You just see a really bright light rapidly approaching you. Moving on to the outdoor section. When you emerge into the daylight, you are blinded by the light. It is quite the shock for your eyes since you have been inside the dark queue for quite some time. It's a similar effect to the on-ride photo on Space Mountain at Disneyland, or any night ride that blinds you with an on-ride photo. For that reason, I cannot tell if I started to gray out at the bottom of the drop, but it was decently forceful. You then rise up into this funky looking, non-inverting sea serpent element. This element is huge and it gives some awesome views of the nearby Baltic Sea. If you're up front, you get some amazing laterals and floater airtime on the first half of this element, and a smaller pop of airtime and laterals on the second half. If you're towards the back, the sensations are reversed. You get a small pop of airtime and laterals in the first half, and then some sustained floater airtime and powerful laterals on the second half. Kärnan then rips through an overbank that turns you to the right, but the descent is this insane double down. Most double downs focus on airtime. Karnan has other plans. This double down has two of the most violent and aggressive instances of laterals on any coaster. These are on par with the Stengel dive on Skyrush, and you get two of these back to back. On the descent from the overbank, you are rapidly flung from the right to the left. It feels like one of those transitions on Intimidator 305, except on Karnan you have just a lap bar, so your upper body will be folded over like a rag doll, and you barely have time to recover before the ride does the exact same thing moments later, flipping you in the opposite direction, equally as abruptly. Karnan then hugs the ground, allowing the coaster to showcase its blistering speed. You whip around this drawn-out U-turn that offers a faint bit of laterals because of how much speed you have. You then get another mild dose of laterals on the S-bend that follows, but the tight U-turn that follows is intense. It pulls some serious G's and it will cause your legs to go numb, much like a Batman the Ride clone. You then get a catapult effect as you're thrown over a camelback. The positive G's release your body, and right at that instant, you get sustained ejector airtime cresting this hill. The rapid transition from positive to negative G's reminds me of the third hill on the Ride of Steel clones at Six Flags America and Six Flags Darien Lake. It is a great airtime hill. You then wind your way back towards the castle. The ride does start bleeding off speed in this section, and it is a bit of a dead spot on the ride. The ascent does give a faint pop of airtime though, but it pales in comparison to the airtime elsewhere on the ride. But don't worry, Karnan finishes strong. You're thrown over a tiny bunny hill that gives another dose of sustained ejector airtime. And this one has a wicked head chopper with a support too. You then hit the brake run and re-enter the castle. Now, there isn't any theming during the entirety of the outdoor portion, but that's understandable. You fly through the course so quickly that you really wouldn't be able to comprehend any of it. And the elements are so good that the ride doesn't need theming during this part of the ride. Now let's talk about that final indoor section. If you want to skip ahead to my final thoughts, I have the timestamp on the screen that you should go to. Most people think the ride is over as the brake run slows you down to a crawl. But once you enter the castle, there is this super slow barrel roll. It is analogous to the JoJo rolls on Hydra at Dorney Park or Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. This element gives several seconds of sustained hang time. But this one has two additions that make it really awesome. First, this one has a head chopper at the floor. You are mere inches from it if you have your hands raised. Two, this one twists to the right while you're inverting, so it is extremely disorienting. Moving on to my final thoughts. There are two other points I need to discuss with Karnan: the smoothness and the pacing. The biggest complaint that people have voiced with this coaster over the years is that some find it rough. The ride definitely has a shimmy to it, but because you don't have over-the-shoulder restraints, the ride caused me no discomfort. It is similar to the shakiness you can find on Skyrush at Hershey Park. With regards to pacing, Karnan is darn near perfect except for that brief stretch in between the camelback and the final bunny hill. Karnan is entertaining riders at all times outside of that, either with stunning visuals, powerful airtime, or intense laterals. So what do I rank Karnan? I give this coaster a perfect 10 out of 10. This is Gerstlauer's masterpiece, and there is no other coaster quite like it out there. This ride exceeded my expectations in every area. It has an intriguing storyline, and it's much better themed than you'd expect for a ride of this scale. This is an extremely re-rideable coaster with a ton of unique elements, and the forces this ride creates are top-notch as well between the airtime and the laterals. This is one of the most intense rides in the entire world, and really is a complete package. Karnan is in my top 5 steel coasters, and is only surpassed by rides like Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point and Untamed at Wallaby Holland. That is how amazing this ride is. This coaster was the main reason that I wanted to visit Hansa Park, and it did not disappoint. Hansa Park is a beautiful place, but this coaster alone is worth the trip to this German park. So those are my thoughts on Schwur Kärnan, the signature coaster at Hansa Park. Have you ridden Kärnan? Or is this a coaster atop your bucket list? I would love to hear what you think down in the comments. And on that note, please be sensitive to this ride's spoilers if others do not want to know about them. I'm happy to discuss the spoiler elements, but if you want to talk about them and leave them in a comment, just write spoiler before your post. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.